You're listening to The Alex Jones Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're live on this fourth day of Monday, already in May 2015. Coming up, detailed breakdown on the jihad attack up in Garland, Texas, right outside my hometown. But first, this report on Disney sweatshops in America and how it ties into the TPP.
I want to thank all my fellow leaders for their partnership and their commitment to making the TPP a reality.
If President Obama, the IMF, and legions of New World Order stalwarts have their way, your job, your children's future, and the future of the United States will be assimilated to the corporocratic Borg. Obama is diligently attempting to get the Trans-Pacific Partnership passed.
The single greatest challenge for the United States right now, and my highest priority as president, is creating jobs and putting Americans back to work. And one of the best ways to do that is to increase our trade and exports with other nations. 95% of the world's consumers are beyond our borders. I want them to be buying goods with 3 words stamped on them: Made in America.
Corporations are heavily lobbying for the deal as legislative sycophants, pawns of their corporate masters like John Boehner.
Making sure that these kids have a shot at the American dream, like I did. It's important.
Rally support for a trade agreement that will make NAFTA look like child's play.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to announce my introduction of and request co-sponsors for a privileged resolution to withdraw the United States from the World Trade Organization. By what authority does the World Trade Organization assume jurisdiction over the United States federal tax policy? That's the question. At last reading, the Constitution required that all appropriations bill originate in the House and specify that only Congress has the power to lay and collect taxes. Taxation without representation was a predominant reason for America's fight for independence during the American Revolution. Yet now we face an unconstitutional delegation of taxing authority to an unelected body of international bureaucrats. Let me assure you, Mr. Speaker, this nation does not need yet another bureaucratic hurdle to tax reduction.
It's very hard to make anything of the TPP because it's been kept very secret. Half secret, I should say. It's not secret from the hundreds of corporate lawyers and lobbyists who are writing the legislation. To them, it's perfectly public. They're, in fact, writing it. It's being kept secret from the population.
High-wage American workers and union members would face more direct competition from low-wage Malaysian, Vietnamese, and Mexican workers because the partnership would create a free trade zone with no tariffs or barriers. The treaty would give corporations a direct way to object to and even override individual countries' democratically passed laws. An international tribunal would have the power to overrule individual nations' legal standards and impose economic penalties. That power would be the cornerstone of an unelected corporocratic New World Order.
I wish people could remember what the border looked like between Texas and Mexico before NAFTA. And it was poor, really poor, on both sides of the border. If you go down there today, there's prosperity on both sides of the border, and that's in our nation's interest.
We have the opportunity to remake the world. For this new era, our national security, we now know, will be determined as much by our ability to pull down foreign trade barriers as by our ability to breach distant ramparts.
The devastation the U.S. economy and the Mexican economy suffered under NAFTA is shocking. Another corporatocracy program chipping away at the U.S. jobs economy is the abuse of the H-1B visa work program. For example, at the end of October 2014, IT employees at Disney parks and resorts were replaced by imported cheap labor they had to train as they were laid off. Disney CEO Bob Iger is one of 8 co-chairs of the Partnership for a New American Economy, a leading group advocating for an increase in the H-1B visa cap. One of the briefing documents made this claim: H-1B workers complement instead of displace U.S. workers. It explains that as employers use foreign workers to fill more technical and low-level jobs, firms are able to expand and allow U.S. workers to assume managerial and leadership
doesn't
positions.
happen. We're going to break.
Interviewed said they
the full report is up on Infowars.com. We'll be back with a ton of vital news. Obviously, Michael Savage is coming up, too.
You've probably heard of the shooting at the Prophet Muhammad Cartoons exhibition in Garland, Texas over the weekend. But did you know Daily Mail used pictures from the event, but bowing to political correctness blacked out the offensive images? And thus far, President Barack Obama has been silent about the attacks. And CNN used the event to attack the Second Amendment when it was the Second Amendment that stopped the gunman in their tracks. But now we've learned that the FBI has been watching one of the suspects using an FBI informant. Elton Simpson, the man identified as one of the two gunmen killed, was under surveillance by the FBI and subject of a terror investigation. The FBI has arranged numerous fake terror plots, including the Washington Metro bombing plot, the New York subway plot, the plan to blow up the Sears Tower in Chicago, the plot to bomb the Portland Christmas tree lighting, and others. In 2014, Human Rights Watch released a report stating nearly all high-profile domestic terrorism plots in the United States after 9/11 included the direct involvement of government agents and informants. You can read about all these stories at Infowars.com. Rob Dew reporting for PrisonPlanet.tv.
Introducing Secret 12, the new InfoWars Life vitamin B12 formulation. Secret 12 is a binary of nutramedical grade, bioavailable coenzyme forms of B12, methylcobalamin, the same kind used in B12 injections, and adenosylcobalamin. Secret 12 is simply taken by mouth, right on the tongue, and then swallowed. No needles, no injections. Secure your revolutionary Secret 12 formula right now at InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139. Used since before the days of the Roman Empire to support the body's natural systems. Introducing the new InfoWarsLife.com oil of oregano formulation. We have now procured the most high quality and potent forms of oregano oil on the market. Extracted directly from the wild herb and sealed in easy to use capsules. You will no longer need to endure the burning of liquid oregano on the tongue. Now available in our limited first run at InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139.
Using unparalleled research in the development of a synergistic formulation based around the key concepts of super oxygenation, the next level in cleansing is here. With key ingredients backed by real clinical studies, the new Oxy powder, available through InfoWars Life, was invented during Dr. Group's research on the toxification of our bodies. Many herbal colon cleansers are harsh on the body and contain cheap and potentially dangerous ingredients, oftentimes full of synthetic fillers, GMOs, additives, or worse. Gently start cleaning your body with easy capsules that start working while you sleep. Oxy powder does not require time off work, and there's no need for bad tasting concoctions. Instead, Oxy powder slowly releases monoatomic oxygen into the intestinal tract and body. Experience the astonishing cleansing power of superoxide and ozonide technology. Go to InfoWarsLife.com or InfoWarsStore.com to get started with Oxy powder, or call 1-888-253-3139.
Crashing through the lies and disinformation. It's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is Monday, already May 4th, 2015. I'm your host, Alex Jones. Dr. Michael Savage will be joining us in the second hour today. He was originally coming on to talk about his new book by New York Times bestselling author, A Time for War, Michael Savage, Countdown to Mecca. Basically, he can't get books about what he really thinks published, or they end up censoring him. That happened on the last book about China. And so he's put out a fiction book, close quote, and he's going to be joining us on that subject. But obviously, it'll be informative to have him on to give us his breakdown on the shooting that took place last night in Garland, where they were having a free speech event demonstration. One police officer wounded in the leg, the two gunmen gunned down by the Garland SWAT team that was lying in wait because the FBI had already questioned the reported shooters and, as usual, had not been allowed to basically indict them by the Justice Department. They'd caught them traveling to North Africa for training, and they were allowing them basically to travel back and forth for ISIL, Islamic State, and the ISIS forces, who have taken responsibility. Now, some will ask, is this a false flag? And it would take an hour to go into why, with first look last night and this morning, probably not. If this had been a staged event, you'd have had hostages taken, the real killers would have gone out the back door, they would have shot a couple patsies, that is, the operators would have, and the local cops would have been held back by the feds and thought that the terrorists had killed themselves. That's the kind of staged event that has been run before in Europe. The fact that the SWAT team took them out instantly and that it looked so good for the Second Amendment versus what you saw with the Charlie Hebdo fiasco in France and the way that CNN and others are responding with their spin, you see they weren't lined up with their PR points day one. When you see a provocateur or staged event like Sandy Hook or 9/11, the media is ready with the narrative scripted on every channel. When it's not staged, they're not scripted and ready on every channel. And again, ISIS itself is a false flag in that they've been armed, allowed to train, allowed to operate and build up and then recruit. And as I've said, they don't need to get ISIS or ISIL forces, it's all part of the same Islamic State, across the border because ISIS mainly recruits for Islamic State out of the West, out of Europe, out of the UK, out of the United States and Canada. And we've been complaining for years that our government and other governments allow them to fly back and forth to build up this force. I mean, they just had another big suicide bombing in Damascus trying to topple the Assad regime and put ISIS in control there to set up Islamic State. So the media does not like the image of instant reaction by the police gunning these two down. There were a lot of witnesses out on the busy road there in Garland. I even know where that convention center is. I grew up in Rockwall, across the lake from Garland. So you've got Rockwall outside Dallas, you've got Lake Ray Hubbard, and you've got Rowlett and Garland. And my stomping grounds were Garland and Richardson and Rowlett and Rockwall. And so I know that area well. And from witnesses and the rest of it, they just saw the car pull up, start shooting, and they got gunned down immediately, only wounding one person. So that's certainly good news. Separately, though, it is a false flag in that globalist forces that I liken to Spectre, criminal groups within compartmentalized areas of government and corporations, are on record admitting they use the radical jihadi Islamic threat funded by Saudi Arabia and others to destabilize the planet and bring in social control, which is then not used against radical Islam, but is used against libertarians, veterans, conservatives, people that are actually trying to restore the republic. I've got to say, though, watching CNN last night and ABC News and MSNBC monitoring propaganda, and this morning watching it, we've got a bunch of these clips, but it's all over the news. You're seeing it. Why even play them? Where they go, these are bigoted, horrible people. Has it gone too far, their speech? These people are idiots. These people are horrible. You've got this European government member who was over there to speak. It's a free speech event. If you don't believe in free speech, you don't believe in this country. And we should be having a debate about radicals that don't like free speech to the point that they're ready to go out and kill people. And then the media acts like it's the fault of the event holders that had it in a convention center that they rented out, where you could have a convention for Muslims, you could have a convention for Baptists, you could have a convention for Catholics, you could have a convention for Zoroastrians, you could have a convention for atheists, you could have a convention for Harry Potter enthusiasts, Star Wars nerds. I mean, it's not like they were in front of somebody's church at a funeral making fun of dead people. And that's even protected, though it starts to get into incitement. No, it was inside a closed-door event that they paid for. I don't believe in stirring people up, so I'm not